Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Life in General podcast. My name is Nick.
And my name is Ian.
My name is Ian.
And I'm bussin'.
And bussin'. So bussin'.
So bussin'. That guy's something else, man.
So if you didn't hear it from a couple weeks ago, there's a very crazy guy. It looks like a meth addict or something on TikTok. And I couldn't find the whole video. All I could find was the very end of it. So this is the... Hold on. It's just the guy's like... The video isn't funny. It's the guy's scream.
Right. It's not a scream. It's a laugh.
Yeah. He's... Hold on. I'll explain it.
What is bussin', for those of you who couldn't see the video, is he was doing a review of what strawberry milk and a zebra cake are together, and apparently they're bussin'.
Apparently they are bussin'.
Now, I would not want to be his dentist. And as you pointed out, we shouldn't jump to conclusions about meth addiction. But
you're right.
You know,
I will say that, like, that's the one thing I find comical about. I don't really go on TikTok a whole lot, but I watch Instagram Reels, which is basically the same thing.
Right, I do both.
And the funny thing is, like, a lot of times I'm not like really watching the people in the video. I'm looking in the background. Like,
are you?
Yeah, because there's some people that have some disgusting fucking houses.
Oh, yeah.
That have no problem doing stupid shit on social media.
Well,
like, really?
I mean, they got all those...
if you're going to do that dance, can you, like, clean up behind you?
I see all those clickbait articles on Facebook, and I'm guilty of clicking on them because it'll be like, you know, this selfie they didn't know what was going on behind them and stuff. And it's always like... It's some hot chick, but then she's got like a dildo stuck to the wall in her bathroom and, you know, shit like that. It's like, what?
Speaking of dildos.
Because who doesn't?
I told you, man, I said it before. I could segue off of pretty much anything.
Right.
I didn't know this, but there's a law apparently in Texas. You know, it's Texas. That it's illegal to own 6 or more vibrators. Just thought it was interesting.
But there's no limit on how many guns you can buy.
Yes, very true. Very true.
Jesus Christ. Only in America.
But continue with what you were saying. I don't know if you had to, or were you done? Was that it?
Was that other than the dildos? I mean, I've got plenty of thoughts on dildos. I don't necessarily.
I typically don't see like things like that behind people in the videos, right. But I'm kind of a neat freak. I like to have a clean house. Mm-hmm. When we have like potlucks at work, I generally don't eat things that other people have made in their houses because other people are fucking gross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'll only eat stuff that's like store bought, even though store bought stuff can be equally as disgusting.
Or more so, maybe.
There was, and I will say that like I haven't always been that way. There was when I worked in Tennessee, there's a place I worked at down there. There was a nicest old lady that worked there, and she would make these like homemade breakfast sandwiches and bring them in for everyone, or for like the 5 or 6 people that worked in our area.
Right.
And there was a day where she brought it in, and I took it out back. I was actually getting ready to go unload a semi that just pulled up, and I took a bite out of it. And she's like this old lady with like long gray hair, right? Mm-hmm. I took a bite out of it and pulled like this clump of gray hair out. It was like, oh my God, this is fucking disgusting. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to somebody else that worked at a different department. And they were like, yeah, don't eat anything that she makes because like they said they went into her house and her house looked like, when you see the show Hoarders, that's what the inside of her house looked like.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, oh my God.
Obviously her hair's falling out.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm like eating stuff from. So yeah, ever since then, it's like, you know what? If it's something you made at your house, unless I like know you and have been to your house,
right,
I'm not eating it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't remember where I was going with that. Is today like I get so sidetracked, I just forget what the hell I'm talking about?
I guess. It's Nick's complaining day too.
Isn't that all I do?
Truck drivers, people making food for me.
But yeah, so that's kind of what I was getting at. Was the so yeah, when I watch these videos, like I said, I'm kind of a clean person, and I like, so people don't have like I said, vibrators and stuff behind them. Just they have like really dirty houses.
Right.
And I'm like, man, can you at least like if you're gonna do that video,
tidy up that?
Can you like pick all your dirty clothes up off the couch when you're
Right.
fucking have some respect for yourself, damn it, before you get 3/4 of the way naked and dance on the screen.
Right. Well, I guess they assume that no one, if people are looking at the background, they're not doing their job right.
That's very true. That's very true.
If you're not looking at the tits, you're looking at the bed. Maybe
I
there's
will
something
say
wrong.
that. Speaking of that, man, if I was a woman, if I was like a decent looking woman, I would be on OnlyFans.
Yeah,
like,
I'm 100% too.
And you don't have to go on. You don't have to be someone that like does nudity on OnlyFans.
No. But you get paid more if you do.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
And if I was an attractive woman, fuck it, I don't even care.
I mean, some people don't.
I wouldn't give it all away at once, but enough to start making some good money.
Yeah, I do know that some people have said. Now, granted, I'm going to be completely open and honest about this. I've never been on OnlyFans.
Yeah,
I've never subscribed to anything on OnlyFans.
I've seen ones that were like shared on other people's, but it's usually just like a girl in a tank top talking.
Yes. And that's the same thing.
I will not pay to watch anything.
No, I am a cheap
except
bastard.
for like Disney Plus. I'm a whore for Disney Plus and Hulu and Netflix, but
not for your new.
But no, because porn is free.
Porn is free. Exactly.
You can get it anywhere.
Yes, exactly.
Well, not anywhere, but Pornhub's very, very. It's got a nice selection of videos.
I would say, but yeah. So if I was like decent. Yeah, I've had OnlyFans. I probably wouldn't do nudity or anything like that. But
I don't think I would do porn, but I would do OnlyFans stuff all day.
But I do know that, and that's what I was gonna say was I know that I have seen where people have talked about their OnlyFans and say that they don't do nudity, but they do like simulated nudity. So I don't know.
What the hell's that?
I don't know what that is. So maybe
technically we're all simulated nude anyway, and it's just covered up.
So I don't know if that's like nipples through your shirt or something like that. I don't know. But anyway,
or just showing more cleavage or something.
Maybe something.
Or
like
having
that.
like really high cut shorts on or something.
Or having like where your almost lip is going to pop out of your shorts,
right?
Something like that. I don't know, but
some of those girls' lips are really fighting to get out.
Like sleeve of wizard. Right. Was it Borat? Have you ever seen that clip?
Never really. I think you probably have.
I played it for you at work not too long. Yeah.
I've never seen the movie.
It wasn't in the movie.
Okay.
Sacha Baron Cohen was on one of the late night talk shows.
Okay.
As Borat when the movie was coming out. And he was talking about vagines, as he calls them, and he made the joke about some girl's vagine looked like a sleeve of a wizard. I always thought that was kind of funny because
yeah,
I can see that.
Okay.
But if you are interested in it, you can just Google it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess it's not really Googling on YouTube. Search for it on YouTube.
Right.
I guess they're owned by the same company, so it is.
Yeah, more or less.
Well, it is. I mean,
as far as the terminology goes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
like Google, it's what search. There isn't like what are some other search engines out there?
There's Bing. There's
but no one's gonna say, "Hey, can you Bing that for me?" Though it's like
Chandler Bing.
that's what I think of.
Right. Me too. No, I mean, what's the other ones? There's Firefox is a browser that works as a search engine as well.
Yeah, but don't they don't have their. I don't think they have their own search engine. I think they have like
it probably goes through Bing or something like that.
Yeah, it goes through another one.
I know MSN goes through Bing because I think Bing is Microsoft.
Is it?
I think so.
And then there's like 241 or something like that. It's like
none of them. I mean, Google is going to have everything that those other ones are going to have.
Yeah.
So
well, Google is going to have everything of everything. So
yeah, but they do curate it to the
absolutely
fit their
absolutely.
financial needs rather than our informational needs.
Of course, because it's all through the whatever the algorithm is,
right? Which is again why people, if you're going to look stuff up on Google, that's great. I want you to look stuff up, but make sure you're looking for the right sources.
Yes.
Don't just click on the top search.
No, and that's what's fun. I can't tell you how many times I've been at work and I'm like. I'll like be looking over someone's shoulder and I'm like, hey, can you look this up? And they'll like Google it. And then they right away want to click on the very top thing. And I'm like, no. The top like 4 things always say like ad next to it.
Right.
Never click on those.
Right.
Even if it's the site you want to go to, don't click on
I
that
scroll
one.
down. I do that because like if I'm on another computer, I don't have Amazon saved, and I search Amazon. I always go down to the one that isn't ad. What is it? It's ad something. But anyway, I never click on those because it's just feeding the beast.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't have any problem with it. It's just going to take me to Amazon, but it's
like
feeding the beast.
Yes, and then that's why I said, even if that is the site you're looking for, don't click on it.
Right.
Scroll down and actually click on the site.
Absolutely. Well, that and you're never going to get the information you need right from the very first article anyway if you're looking for something complex.
I don't know.
I always, even if it does confirm what I'm looking for, I'll still look at other sources. I'll go down and look at other sources just to make sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I can find stuff, especially when I'm like looking up like stuff when I'm researching stuff for like a school paper and stuff like that.
Right.
I find a lot of stuff.
Well, that's different. I'm talking about like in terms of like
like infotainment kind of stuff.
Yeah, or even like when you're looking at political stuff or scientific stuff.
You're right, because there probably isn't like a lot of different opinions out there about medication administration errors.
Right.
Which is one of the last papers I wrote. That's why I brought it up.
Right. I mean, it's going to be limited, especially if you're not going to go to like, Bob's medical information for your term paper. You're going to go to like,
you look for like the National Health Institute or things like
exactly. that. Exactly. So reputable sources. So, but when it comes to politics,
the National Library of Medicine, I think is
even just if you're looking at like news sources, it seems like every week there's a new news website, and I don't know what their integrity is like.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I'm always, especially if I don't recognize the website, I'm gonna search around.
Oh yeah, there was a guy I used to work with in Tennessee, and I feel like I've had a lot of stories lately. But last episode I was talking about people throwing feces out the window. But anyway, so I worked with this guy in Tennessee, super nice guy. And actually, I think he ended up getting fired not after I left, because he ended up being alcoholic and showed up to work
mixing strawberry milk with cakes.
Yeah. And then I think he ended up having a stroke or something like that. But anyway, he was a really nice guy.
Yep.
And but he would come to me, and this was like 2009, 2010, so around that election cycle. The Tea Party cycle.
Right.
And he would always come to me with like this craziest shit. And like I said, he was a really nice guy, and we were actually able to have civil conversations, even though we were like very different political ends. But like I said, he would just have this craziest shit. And I'm like, man, where'd you see this at? Oh, he was like, I was reading on Hot Air last night. Where do you find these fucking websites, man? And if you go on there, it's like one of those crazy, I don't know if it still is, but it's one of those crazy, like way far left, way far right news sources. Right. And I say news and very loose quotation marks.
Well, like even early on, I didn't know what OEN was.
Yeah.
And it seemed when you see OEN news, that
it looks like
it sounds legitimate, yes. And that so. And then
until
you start
reading, looking at it,
right? But if you're not like someone who delves deep into what they're reading and tries to be skeptical and look at other sources, if OEN comes up and you're going to read their article, I'm telling you, it's going to be 90% lie. I mean, that's my my experience with them.
Maybe not 90% lie. I would say it's
definitely not 50-50.
No, I would say it's a lot of it is definitely geared to make the reader think a very specific thing.
Right.
Even if that's factually based, it's factually based in a slanted way to make you think something else is going on.
Right. But it's also, there's a lot of lies in it. The articles I've read by them, I mean, it's like, well, that's factually inaccurate. That's not even bending the truth around it. That's just factually inaccurate.
Yeah. But there's so many different sites on. It seemed like every day he was coming up, hey, have you seen this website? And I'm like, I'd go on there and look, and I'm like, Daryl, why the fuck are you reading any of this?
Do you have a brother Daryl? And another brother Daryl?
Like I said, he was a nice guy, but
but then again, that was 11 years ago. Most likely, he might be a lot more extreme. Well, you said he died.
I think he's dead.
Yeah. But today he might be far more extreme than he was even then.
Possibly.
Because, I mean, it seems
a lot
like
of people
he's
are
geared towards those news sources.
Yeah.
Yep.
Seemed like a lot of. I don't know. Tennessee was a weird fucking place, man. It was a weird place to live. Like, Nashville's a great city.
Yeah.
And it's a great city to go to and do things in and, like, vacation to. And Nashville's probably, like, East Nashville, it's probably a great place to live if you can afford to live there.
Right.
But, man,
Well, that's true of anywhere.
Once you get, like, and even, like, northeast of Nashville, if you're in, like, Hendersonville area and things like that, really nice place to be.
Murfreesboro seemed pretty.
Murfreesboro.
I mean, it had its. Like, you could see it had its elements, but it was mostly not upper crust, but it was like, you know,
I'd say middle class.
Middle class.
Yeah. It's also a college town,
right.
so there's more money there because it's a college town,
Right.
and it's a big college. It's one of the biggest colleges in Tennessee. You know, outside obviously UT is the biggest,
yeah.
but. And Murfreesboro used to be the capital of Tennessee because it's the geographical center.
Oh, okay.
Before the capital was moved to Nashville. But you know, it's that area between like Nashville and Murfreesboro that gets kind of sketchy when you get in like the Antioch, Laverne area,
even Smyrna, yeah.
yeah.
Because Smyrna's in between, isn't it?
Yeah.
Couldn't remember if it was before or after.
And I guess Smyrna's not bad. Smyrna's not as middle class as where like I think the Nissan plant was out there, so
Right.
you've got kind of a blue collar middle class kind of area out there too. But I guess I should kind of revise that and say from like Nashville to Smyrna was the sketchy area,
Right.
like where if you didn't know, you'd be like, oh, this isn't too bad, and you're like, oh wait, am I in like Clanville? Like,
Right. Well, that's what I mean, I didn't see a lot of that, but I didn't travel a lot when I was down there. But, you know, thankfully I didn't see that because I probably wouldn't even have stayed as long as I did.
There was I remember there was a manager at the place I was working at down there back in 2000. It probably had to have been 2010, I think it was. The first couple of years I lived down there, there was a big flood. Were you living down there when the flood happened? I don't think.
No, I just moved back.
But the Cumberland River flooded and like
Nashville.
completely devastated areas in Nashville. Like there were parts of Nashville, like southwest side of Nashville, where they'd like go around boats and cut people out of their attics because their house was completely flooded and things like that. I remember the guy, our manager at the time, the place I worked at, was so fucking happy that flood happened because our sales were going to go through the roof. And I was like, man, you're such a piece of shit.
Well, I mean, that's not necessarily a Tennessee thing either, or a
No,
Southern thing.
well,
That's
I will say that he was not. He was from Ohio too, so I wasn't trying to make it a Southern thing,
right.
but it was just one of those people I came across. I'll say I worked with a lot of people down there that. I mean, out of the 100+ people I worked with at that place, if I was starting my own business, I'd probably hire maybe 4 of them. Like the rest of them they weren't terrible employees. They just weren't good, if that makes sense.
Right. No, it makes sense.
Good employees.
Yeah, I mean they serve a function, but they're not bringing anything to the table.
No, and a lot of them, the crazy thing was like it seemed like half the people I worked with were all like pill heads.
Yeah.
They're like one of our other managers ended up going to rehab while I worked there because he got addicted to pills. I worked with one guy, man. He would take like 15 to 20 oxys a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Surprised he was even alive.
He probably isn't anymore.
Well, probably not.
That was
because
12 years ago.
Yeah, well, and since then the laws have gotten a lot stricter about that, and so he probably would have moved to meth or heroin in those cases if he couldn't get the pills anymore.
I don't know how the laws have changed in Tennessee. I know that they've changed here pretty.
Well, I thought it was a federal thing, but you're right. I'm looking at it from Michigan perspective.
Yeah, there's because there was when I lived down in Tennessee, there was a pharmacist. Well, he wasn't a pharmacist; he was a doctor. I knew a doctor in Nashville that if you went in there and gave him $100, whatever it was, he would write you a prescription for anything you fucking wanted.
Wow.
Yeah. So, it's not like people are like faking prescriptions and things like that.
Well, right. I just know in Michigan that they everything is counted to the it's in terms of even prescriptions.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying though is like with instances like that, that's how you get around stuff like that. There was a big issue. That's why.
But it would still show up in a registry that this doctor has prescribed this amount of pills to this person, and this person isn't getting going to pain clinics or anything else.
Because you don't have to.
You do in Michigan.
Well, you do in Michigan, but and they had pain clinics in Tennessee when I lived down there.
You can't even get a prescription unless you go to a pain clinic in Michigan.
No.
Nope.
But that's why Monroe County, which is in southeastern Michigan, that's why it has had such a big problem with heroin
Right.
over the last decade or so, is because there was a pharmacy in Monroe County that would, I'm not shitting you, man, that's how they got caught, but they did it for years and years. There were people that would drive up from Florida just to go to this fucking pharmacy because they would just fill anything.
Yeah.
They just fill whatever. And, I'm sure they're obviously doing things that they weren't supposed to do because the pharmacist ended up going to prison. But, and then so once the pharmacy gets closed, then what do people do?
Right.
They go to heroin.
Because it's the only thing they can get. And yeah, I know. I get wanting to control it, but maybe they should be focusing on getting the pharmaceutical manufacturers to maybe try to find ways to create pain relievers that are not addictive.
Well, that's the funny thing. So when these drugs first hit the market in the mid to late-ish 90s, there was a study done. And I don't remember what pharmaceutical company it was that did the study, but basically they doctored the results,
about it,
and they only used like 20 or 30 people in their trial, quote unquote trial, that showed that these
narcotics,
the drugs that they created, they weren't addictive if you had pain. Like, oh well, if you're just taking it for your pain, they're not addictive. And that's why, it started getting everyone started getting hooked on all this shit because they started giving it up for pain for everything. Right. Because, these studies showed or proved that if you have pain, it's not addictive. That's complete bullshit.
Of course. I mean, any rational person would know that that's not
opioid. That's what the word I was trying to say. Opioid. Yeah. Opioid. So yeah, there was when they created the whole opioid epidemic was based off of those sham studies.
Still, it managed to go through those studies. Managed to go through the FDA.
The FDA doesn't run trials.
No, but they do test. They do run studies of their own.
Nothing like large scale.
No,
I mean, the information that they go off is the information provided by the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, that should have been their first guess. Relying on the people you're.
But that's how all drugs,
I know,
like throughout the last 100 years, have been made.
I know. Well, and there's been a lot of problems with that too. Don't get me wrong. I'm a science guy, so if it works, it works. But there's a lot of things that have been created that cause a lot more harm than good, and that's been proven time and time again.
And I'll say that science has also changed a lot over the last 30 years since those trials were done. So
true. Well, the standards have changed. The scientific method has essentially been the same for centuries, but
understanding of human biology and things like that has evolved.
Yeah.
We understand things better now than what we did in the 90s.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah. So now, looking at something like that from a 2022 perspective, it's like, oh, you fucking idiots. What do you
right.
But it doesn't always work that way. But
no, it doesn't.
So what else is going on, Ian? I don't know how we made it through 20 plus minutes, and
the new inductees for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for 2022, all good.
That's it. All right, thanks.
They're good. we were going to talk about it because there's a lot of people out there who don't think that it was good.
No, I'm going to run down the list here real quick because I think there's on the Vinyl Den we did an episode a year back or so where we talked about Rock and Roll Hall of Fame snubs, and Pat Benatar was a big one that we talked about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because she's somebody that really deserves to be in there.
Absolutely.
So I did a video when the announcement was made, just recently. And in the video, I talked about how it was great that Pat Benatar was finally being inducted. And there were several people that were like, you're out of your fucking mind. She's terrible. She doesn't deserve to be in there.
What?
Yeah.
I will say that she did make a good point, but it's also a null point. She thought that her husband should be inducted too because he's been her co-writer and guitarist.
He is
since the beginning. Is he getting inducted as well?
Neil
Giraldo.
Yeah, he's being inducted also.
Okay. See, I wasn't sure. I the impression I got was that he wasn't.
Well, from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees list that is from their website under performer category, it says both of them.
Okay. Well,
so. Yeah, and you're right. They both deserve to be in there.
Right, because like I said, he's been her co-writer and songs. Well, he's pretty much written all the music.
Yeah.
For all of her songs since the beginning. So.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely time that she gets in.
Yeah,
absolutely. I know a lot of people don't like Duran Duran, but I think it's time for Duran Duran to get in also.
Yeah, no, they were huge, and they're I guess you could argue about their rockness, but.
The thing
at
is,
a time when they were around, that was pop rock, you know.
And the thing is, like when the announcement for the inductees was made, the CEO of the Hall of Fame, or whoever he is, I don't remember I think he is the CEO. But anyway, when he was going through the list, he was even like at the very beginning, he was even talking about how diverse this group is and how influential this group was. Mm-hmm. And I think influence is something that they really put a high priority on in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Duran Duran was definitely influential, especially in the late half of the 80s and early part of the 90s.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can't see any artists that came out, even alternative bands were probably mildly influenced
absolutely. I guarantee it.
By it, by them. So I don't know what the problem is at this point in the game.
Because here's the thing. People look at the list every year, and if they're not a fan of any of those artists,
they don't think
they're a fan of a heavy metal band or a thrash metal band from the 80s, that's the band that they'll die on the hill for. Right. And if they're not inducted, all the rest of them are shit.
Yeah.
And that's the opinion that I've seen people have over and over and
over
again.
There's artists that are in the Hall of Fame that I am not a fan of.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's some artists in there I don't personally believe they should be there.
I don't think the Foo Fighters should have got in last year, but that's my opinion.
Is it just the timing, or you don't think they should be in there at all?
I don't think they should be in there.
Why?
I don't think their body of work or their influence is at a level yet where they were worthy to be included or inducted. Should they eventually be in the Hall of Fame?
I mean, that's what I mean. So it's just timing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can't really argue with you on that because I don't see it. But if you said they shouldn't be in there at all, that I'd probably have to argue with you.
Well, I mean, that's kind of hard to say because they're still a band and they still have theoretically, they're probably still a band, and they probably will continue their career. So who knows what they could go on and do? But if you're going to make influence a big factor.
Have they always made influence a big factor, though? That's the question.
I think so.
Is that new?
I think so. No, I think they always have. Because even in the very beginnings, we'll get to some of the musicians that are included, but every year there's people that are included that you're like, okay, if you're just looking at like a specific, if you're looking at rock and roll, these artists probably shouldn't be included. But if you look at influence, their influence on rock and roll, their influence on music in general, they absolutely deserve to be included. So I think they've always.
Oh, I personally think you should have a little bit of both, but
yeah, but I think they've always had.
And to be fair, even the artists I don't like, or not a huge fan of, I think they hit both marks.
Yeah.
For me, they hit the influence mark. They hit the significance mark in terms of their output. So
yeah, well, like the next one, Eminem.
That goes without saying.
Eminem is probably one of the most influential musicians of the last 20 years of the 2000s. He has been. He's been influential on rap. He's been influential on rock. It's and a lot of people had a problem with Eminem being included this year.
I know.
As people had a big problem with Dolly Parton being included also. We'll get to her. But,
see, Eminem is an example of someone I'm not a fan of his stuff. But I understand the argument. I see what you mean. He's hugely influential.
Yeah.
And he's, within his with what he's done, it's been he's talented in what he does.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's no question that I don't want to say popularity, because popularity could be taken in different ways, but his output is solid.
Yeah.
And consistent.
Mainstream.
Yeah, I mean, mainstream, again, it can have dangerous connotations.
Not using it with a negative connotation.
Right. So, but I was trying to find ways to say it without saying that.
He's the highest selling rapper in music history.
Right. And he's good at what he does. Yeah. There's no question about that.
Maybe Kanye might have passed him, but
well,
he's definitely one of them.
Right. So, I mean, what are they going to do in 15 years when Kanye's in there?
Kanye better get in the fucking Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But anyway, I will say that
that's your opinion, but I can't comment on the quality of his music, because I can only get to see his personal life.
Yes, his personal life aside. By the way, have you watched the Kanye documentary?
No, I probably
watch it.
Won't.
It's really fucking good.
Yeah, I have no interest
because it's not from Kanye. Didn't make it.
It's going to be honest.
Yeah, it shows a lot of stuff that, the reason that it didn't get made until now is I don't think Kanye wanted it to come out for a long time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these videos and stuff, it's all home videos shot from a guy because Kanye is from Chicago.
Right.
And then this guy had like a underground, like, music, hip hop, like cable access show back in the late 90s. And happened to interview Kanye one day. And they became friends, and then he ended up being like his unofficial videographer for like until like Kanye got really big, and then this guy went off and had his own life and didn't talk to Kanye for like a decade or more until he started putting this documentary together. And it's really interesting to watch Kanye like as a struggling musician, like the shit that he went through just to get his first record made, where he was signed to a major label. The label would not give him studio time, wouldn't help him with anything. Mm-hmm. He was borrowing studio time by doing like features with other artists and selling beats and things like that, just to kind of get his first album made.
Right.
And it's kind of interesting to see everything he kind of went through. And like
that doesn't justify his behavior or his attitude.
No, but I think it really kind of shows like the mental health issues that really have been ongoing throughout his whole life. And like, because at the very beginning he was a normal kind of fucking person, and then like over the course of this documentary you see like the bigger slide that he goes through like mentally throughout his career. It's really interesting to watch. It's not like I said, it's not like Kanye directing this.
Right.
It's somebody outside of his circle that put all these videos and stuff together. So like I said, if you are a music fan, you're interested at all, definitely check out the Kanye West documentary, because it's very, like I said, it gave me a whole new appreciation of at least how he got his first album made and the struggles he went through to kind of get it made. But
I need to watch Game of Thrones first. Finish Game of Thrones.
You've been trying to watch that for
years now.
2 years now. Yeah. I will say that a lot of people that I saw on social media had a big problem with Eminem because of some of the homophobic language that Eminem has used, especially early on in his career. And even though, like, Eminem, like, even at the very beginning of his career, talked about, like, he said it multiple times that this is you hear me on my albums, this is a character I'm playing.
Right.
This is not how I feel. This is not how I am. These songs are a representation of that Slim Shady character.
Right. Or things that he observes around him, too. I would imagine he's... any good writer is going to use observational experience, not necessarily their own personal experience, but observational experience within their writing. Yeah. It's just natural.
But I remember one comment in particular, and this wasn't somebody that commented on my video or on our YouTube channel. It was just like on a social media post about the Hall of Fame induction, and this guy was like something along the lines of, when he apologizes for being homophobic, then I'll support him. And I'm like, he kind of already has. Like, he's been really good friends with Elton John for almost 2 decades. Actually, Elton John was Eminem's sponsor when he helped Eminem get clean, and for 10 years was Eminem's sponsor.
Right.
When Elton John got married, do you know what he?
Yeah, I've seen the
he gave
interview.
Like diamond plated dildos or something.
No,
cock rings. That's what they were.
Yeah,
cock rings.
Because he was on Graham Norton. And Graham Norton.
Have
you used them? He's like, no.
Because that's what a homophobic person gives a gay couple.
Right.
It's like.
Well, first of all, a homophobic person would not even acknowledge the gay couple getting married.
But that's what I'm saying though, is like people see or have this image of Eminem in early in his career with some of the outlandish stuff that he did, on like, award shows and things like that. And not really understanding that it was all like a bit. It was all a character. Mm. They see that character and they think that's him, and they pass judgment on him for that and not really know the backstory behind it. But anyway, I think Eminem definitely deserves to be in there.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan, but I agree. He definitely does.
The Eurythmics, I think, is somebody else, another group that deserves to be in there.
On the same level as Duran Duran.
Yeah, exactly. We already mentioned Dolly Parton. I know Dolly Parton originally said that she didn't want to be included because she didn't consider herself rock and roll, and then backtracked that.
Yeah, but I think because she probably had that preconceived notion that a lot of other people do, that it's strictly rock and roll and not the influences that rock and roll has had,
or country music.
Yeah. I mean, it's all blended into rock and roll. That's kind of what makes rock and roll cool. Is it's not just one thing. It's
going to be interesting to see music, and I will say on Dolly Parton real quick, she's been hugely influential in music and rock music. She's one of the most covered artists in music history. Mm-hmm. She definitely deserves to be in there. But I will say that it's going to be really interesting in 25 to 30 years, because bands today aren't really defined by genres.
Right.
You look at a rock artist now, and most newer rock artists, there's definitely rock influence there. There's also electronic influence. They've got songs that have, hip hop or R&B influence to it. So they've got tracks that have rap influence to it. It's rock music today is just like it's genreless almost. And that's why it's going to be interesting in 25 to 30 years to see the fights that people throw, or the fits that people throw when they go to induct somebody. Oh, well, they're not rock.
Well, I mean, the same thing started happening in the 70s. When, rock and roll started out at the Elvis, the Buddy Holly, even the Beatles and the Stones. Yeah, is not what you compare a band like Yes or Kansas or Emerson, Lake and Palmer to the Beatles. Yeah, there's if the Beatles are rock and roll, then those other artists are not in that very narrow sense. Yeah. So it's all started then, because that was when started blending genres. Yeah. And now you're right, it's even bigger, and there's a lot more genres to blend. And now you're dealing with blending not just separate genres, but influences from artists who blended other genres. So you got, this group blended jazz and classical, and this other group did world ethnic music, and now it's all in the same area. It's just it's all blended together.
But the funny thing is, people hate Machine Gun Kelly. You can think whatever you want about him, but he's gotten a lot of shit because he had a rap career, and then he did a couple of rock albums, and now he said that his next album he's going to go back and do a rap album because that's what he wants to do, because that's how genres operate in the 2020s.
Right.
A lot of people do that. A lot of people are because there's more freedom in music now. I think because so many different kinds of subgenres are popular, people are like, look, I'm not just pigeonholed as a rock musician,
right?
Or I'm not just pigeonholed as a country musician. I can go off and do whatever. What's his name? Big country music singer, Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks got a bunch of shit when he went off and did the Chris Gaines album, which is a rock album, which actually, if you sit down and listen to it, it's actually a pretty good album. Is it mind-blowing? No. It's a really good rock album. And Garth Brooks got a bunch of shit over that. It was actually supposed to be a soundtrack to a movie. The whole movie idea got scrapped because of the pushback against it. If he were to do that now, it wouldn't be a fucking issue. Because no one fucking cares, because everyone fucking does it. Because if you're a country musician, you can release a fucking rap album if you want, and no one cares.
Right.
You might piss off some of your hardcore country fans.
Right.
But, whatever. you have the freedom now in the 2020s that, if you came up and you were, found, if you were found by a label and they put you on that label, you don't have to do the music that they dictate to you anymore.
Right.
You're not stuck in that genre. You can do whatever you want. It's like Pink, when she first came out, her first album is very hip hop, R&B kind of album. And she was quickly able to, because how popular she got, she was quickly able to kind of pivot and do kind of her own thing, still having some of that influence,
Right.
but still kind of doing some of her own thing. And she's done rock and whatever now, over the course of the past, 20 years also.
Yeah. At least 20 years now.
People look at Miley Cyrus and they're like, oh my God, it's Billy Ray Cyrus's daughter. It's Hannah Montana. They have this idea about her. But if you go back and listen to Plastic Hearts, it's actually a really fucking good album. It's a really good 80s rock album. She actually has, I think, Joan Jett's on there. She's got some other 80s musicians that play with her on that album. It's really good. People don't fucking listen to it, though, because they're like, oh, it's Hannah Montana.
Right.
I
only know her, like, her hits, post.
Yeah. I will say that,
like Wrecking Ball and stuff like that. But,
and Plastic Hearts is not like that. I think if someone were to take the Miley Cyrus name off of that and just put that album out, people would have loved it.
Yeah.
People would have loved that album. John Mayer released an 80s rock album. It's not that great. It's good. It's okay.
I've never listened to that either. I probably should.
Yeah, it's good. It's because
I got a soft spot in my heart for the 80s. Anything
it's
80s.
It definitely has some 80s. It definitely sounds like an 80s-ish kind of album.
Okay.
Obviously mixed with 2020 music, but
Right.
It definitely has some 80s influence. And Plastic Hearts is the same way. I think Plastic Hearts is the name of the album. But yeah, so if you haven't checked out those albums, definitely check them out.
Well, I just think a lot of people are. You limit yourself to what's available out there. You never know. 99.9% of the stuff you look at, you may hate, but it's that 0.1% of the stuff you're like, wow, I never would have listened to that otherwise.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of music over the last couple of years that, to be completely honest, I probably would have never listened to. But once I finally gave it a shot, whether if it's people on Facebook or whatever recommending it, then I'm like, well, shit, why wasn't I listening to this fucking years ago?
Right. I know you don't love it, but Ghost would be a perfect example of that. When I first listened to Impera, I was not a big fan of the album. It has definitely grown on me. Right. But my point is that before that, you hadn't listened to Ghost.
I'd listened to, I'd heard a couple of tracks before, nothing like,
but
I never
never
sat down and listened to an album. No.
Right. But that's an example. I'm just throwing out an example.
And Ghost, I think, is a great example because I'm not a metal person at all. I am not a fucking metal fan, and that's a good album.
Yeah,
it is.
I would argue it's not really as metal as some of their other stuff, but I get what you mean. So, well, that album that Sean bought, that Sabadon, you said that was pretty good, and that's definitely
metal.
Because I listened to it on Spotify. It's metal for sure. Yeah. It's not a bad metal.
It's not an album I would have. I'd never sit down and listen to it, but it's an okay album.
Yeah.
So then. We're not even through the performers yet, but so Lionel Richie got in
some albums that he's released albums, but
he has. But I don't think he never.
Hey, the man can dance on the stage.
I was just gonna say
he's fine. He can get into the rock and roll.
He definitely off of it. I think it's more so outside of his solo career. It's the stuff he did with
Commodores.
With Commodores also.
Now, are they in the Hall of Fame?
I don't know. I think they are.
Because I don't know. I guess he's had probably more singles like hits type, singles hits than the Commodores. But it would be weird that he got in before them.
And I will say that the Commodores have a lot of hits that people don't even know are Commodores songs.
Right, that's true too.
There's a lot of stuff where people probably think it's a Lionel Richie.
Right.
Song,
well, Easy Like Sunday Morning was a Commodore song.
Yes. Yep. It doesn't. It doesn't look like they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Hold on. No, they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So, but the Commodores will probably get in eventually.
Eventually, yeah.
But I can. That's what I'm saying though. Is like this year's list, I can see all of them, or at least all of the performers getting
performers.
In.
Yeah.
Even Carly Simon, which I don't. Carly Simon is one that
I think it's an influencing for her,
yes,
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was going to get to, because I can see Carly Simon. Yeah, she had some good music. You know, it's hard to put her in over other musicians that have been way more influential,
Right.
that aren't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But I think you're definitely right. She has been one of the most influential female singer-songwriters of the past 40
Well, I know several
years.
male artists who were influenced by her.
Yeah,
You know,
so she definitely deserves to be there. Then you got in the Musical Excellence Award category, Judas Priest, which I know some people got mad because Judas Priest didn't get in on the performers list, which I'm fine with them doing musical excellence. That's fine. Just put them in the damn Hall of Fame.
Right.
Judas Priest, like I said, I'm not a fucking metal person. I'm not a metal fan or heavy metal, whatever you want to call them. I'm not a Judas Priest fan. They deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Right.
Like, they are a hugely influential band.
Yeah. I'm definitely more of a fan than you are, for sure.
Yeah. I'm a fan, like, I like the earlier part of their career. I'm more of a fan of some of the stuff that they did, then. But whatever. Like I said, I think they deserve to be there. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, they deserve to be there. They're there primarily for their production work and things like that.
But that all goes to the same thing. You know?
Do you know who they are? They were part of the time. They're part of the time.
Okay.
Which the time should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I definitely think they deserve to be in there. It's good to see Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis get in there. You know, hopefully, eventually, the time will get in there to join them. But like I said, they're primarily there for the production work.
Right.
Early Influence Award, you can't argue with either one of these. Harry Belafonte, who's, one of the most influential artists of the 20th century, I'd say. And Elizabeth Cotton. If you don't know who Elizabeth Cotton is, make sure you go check out her history. She's she was a early like blues kind of musician, really early, very influential in early blues music. And the cool thing is about Elizabeth Cotton is she played the guitar left-handed, but she didn't restring her guitar.
So she basically just played it upside down.
She played her guitar upside down, and they called it the cotton picking style of guitar playing after Elizabeth Cotton. So,
interesting. I've seen a couple very old videos of her playing.
Yeah.
So,
so they definitely. I think it's great that Elizabeth Cotton finally gets recognition, and I think that's something that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has done really well over the last several years, is to go back to these early musicians and recognize them for the outstanding work that they did that unfortunately they weren't recognized for during their life.
Right. And even finding some of these ones that people may not even know of. But you talk to this artist or that artist, like, oh yeah, I know that, that's huge.
Yeah.
There's probably a ton of artists like that.
Absolutely.
That we don't even know about.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we get down to the Ahmet Ertegun Award, which Ahmet Ertegun, I believe, was I think it was someone with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't remember. I looked up last year when I did a video about him, but I don't remember exactly who he was. But anyway, this is like the non-performer category, I think is what this used to be called. So you got a couple that get in there. Jimmy Iovine absolutely deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's one of the biggest music producers and engineers of at least the 1980s and early 90s. He was a producer on Belladonna. Actually, him and what's her name had Stevie Nicks.
Stevie Nicks. Yeah.
God, I'm having a hard time with names tonight. But him and Stevie Nicks had actually a romantic relationship there for a while. But Jimmy's done a lot of great stuff over his career. Jimmy also was a co-founder of Beats that with Dr. Dre. Of course, they sold that to Apple for billions of dollars. But so Jimmy's been very influential over the last 40 years in music. So definitely deserves to be in there. Sylvia Robinson, she was a big early, she was a founder of one of the early hip hop labels in the 70s. So like Sugar Hill Records is
okay, I'm
what she
familiar with
founded.
them. Yeah.
So like
Sorry.
So like Sugar Hill Gang and things like that, she helped kind of found that early part, or that early kind of version of hip hop. So I think she definitely deserves to be there. And then that kind of brings us to Alan Grubman, which Alan Grubman is an attorney.
That's it.
That I don't think deserves to be in there.
Right.
I did a whole video. I shouldn't say that. I did this like long YouTube video that where I went over all the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame stuff. This is, I guess, kind of like a shortened audio, or I guess a long audio version of what I talked about on there. And then, like, at the end of the video, I talked about Alan Grubman, and people got so fucking pissed. They were like, "Oh, you should have. Why did I have to wait 9.5 minutes to hear you get to Alan Grubman?"
Because he's the last on the list.
I'm like, because it's like, well, he's third from last on the list.
But I mean, it's like last on the list as far as like anyone would even.
I know that,
care,
and I was like, and so people were really pissed that
they wanted to hear you rant.
Yes, so because the video, and I did kind of a clickbaity kind of thing. The title of the video was something along the lines of, "This person doesn't belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame," but the whole rest of the video, like, the video was about more than just Alan Grubman.
Right.
The video was about how rock music has progressed and changed, and how rock music and hip hop and rap and country music and blues are all branches of the same fucking tree.
Right.
And basically telling people that they need to evolve their idea of what rock music is was kind of like a big part of that video. And then at the end of it, I got to Alan Grubman. And like I said, people were mad. People wanted me to do, well, you should have done a completely separate video just for Alan Grubman. No, because I don't want to just rant about some guy for 4 minutes and then just, because that's not the kind of channel we have.
Right.
You know, for the most part, we try to keep it as positive as we can. So yeah, it was, you know, there was definitely more to that video than just Alan Grubman. But Alan Grubman is just an attorney. He did some big contracts in music history. He's also a co-founder of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I just thought it seemed kind of shady and you know, very...
It's kind of self-serving in a sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
Self-congratulation.
Yeah.
Like, congratulatory or whatever.
But apparently it's not the first time that they've done that.
Yeah.
Someone made a comment on that video and said that they've done it several times before for like outgoing, like high-ranking members in the hall. And I'm like, that's fine if they want to do that. Have a separate fucking category for that.
Have a Hall of Fame kind of category.
Yes. Yeah. Don't just like slide him in there
Right.
in the non-performers category, which is what the I'm at Ertgen Award is. But I don't know. I think it's a great list. I am looking forward to the ceremony this year. It's going to be on HBO, I think, in like November or something like that.
That'll be on HBO Max and I can watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have HBO,
And
but
they do the whole concert and all that stuff too. So it's going to be great to see all that.
I still haven't gotten around because I heard that Cat Stevens' performance when he was inducted was really
It was
good.
absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
It was absolutely fantastic. I watched that.
So I haven't gotten around to seeing it yet.
Then that was probably the first time. Gosh, what year was that? That was probably 2014.
No, I think
It's been since I moved back to Michigan. I moved back.
okay, maybe it's 16.
Because I watched it like right here. I watched it down here in the basement.
Did you?
So it had to have been like 2016, 2017, something like that.
Well, let's take a look here.
But it was a fantastic performance, and that was like I said, that was the first time I've watched the performances in probably a decade or more.
Mm-hmm.
But
2014.
okay, so
It was that you probably watched it that.
Oh, because I moved here in the beginning part of 2015, so
Right.
it must have just been on, I guess. But
Yeah, it was 2014 according to this.
okay,
I'll just make sure I'm not speaking out of turn. Yeah, 2014, and he was inducted by Art Garfunkel under Performers.
who did he sing with in the performance? Do you remember?
I haven't watched it.
I was wondering if it said on there.
No, I didn't. It was just like his whatchamacallit page. I mean, there's plenty of YouTube videos about it, but
Maybe he didn't perform with somebody. I thought he did though.
it was the Peace Train performance that everyone was raving about.
Yeah, I don't remember what he sang, but I remember it was good.
So
And that was a good year. That was Peter Gabriel winning that year. Hall & Oates, Kiss, Nirvana, and Linda Ronstadt and Cat Stevens.
yeah, it would have been a good year. I'm not a big fan of Kiss, but
It's hard to argue. It's hard to argue with their influence.
Yeah,
you know?
can't argue that.
I don't know. I that's kind of all I had about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I just I thought, like I said, it'll be out later this year, and I'm sure people, once it's on HBO, people will be bitching and complaining about it again. So.
Right.
Because every single time, because obviously we're in southeastern Michigan, so Eminem gets posted a lot about, especially with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame stuff. I knew he was going to be a lock when he was performing at the halftime show at the Super Bowl earlier this year. But so that kind of stuff gets posted a lot on social media, so people like to whine and complain about that. But
yeah, I'm sorry. I've always been aware, but I'm really starting to see it like kind of taking over everything, where it's just people are just bitching about everything.
Yeah.
The littlest detail.
We've had a podcast for 5 years where we just bitch and complain about stuff.
Yeah, but I think for the most part we're pretty reasonable about the shit we bitch about.
That's true.
At least I hope we are.
At least I just bitch and complain about people bitching and complaining. But
yeah, I mean, a lot of times that's what we're
almost
doing.
on a weekly basis.
Right. So
I will say that. So it looks like Pat Benatar. So the way she is inducted, she's inducted just under Pat Benatar.
Right.
But then it says like induction members as her and her husband.
Gotcha.
So he's definitely included.
Good. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I can't see why he wouldn't be. I mean, they're as much a a writing duo as McCartney and Lennon, as far
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess people can email us at
lifeingeneralpod@gmail.com.
Hit us up on Facebook, and that's about all we got. Until next time,
Talk to y'all later.
peace. What the hell was that?
I got
I'm gonna
congestion.
I'm gonna gargle some glass.
No, my throat feels fine.
Talk to y'all later.
Playing my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you took over if you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, the niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bro. We taking the dub. Hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.
Oh shit. Watch out, you the car, Billy. Oh shit. Right now, and I'm smiling in your face, bitch. With a gold smile, you should probably make placement to your eye. Niggas sick as fuck. Standing with niggas who down for that party. Who down for some bitches who showing their bodies. Swear to God, nigga, this Molly got me up and rolling. These bodies of water. Bring that shit in bottles. We must at the party that hit when we started.